Bienvenidos, Fright fans, and welcome to the horror show. I am Jaime and Fuego, here for more continued coverage of our 2018, horror assault of insanity that we have been doing. And I'm talking about a little film that we did a trailer reaction for called Arizona. Let's clear that throat because I live in Arizona. The horror show is based in Arizona, although this film, ironically, is filmed in New Mexico, so it's not really Arizona. Yeah, that kind of bummed me out. But long story short, this is a movie that takes place during the 2009 after effects of the housing crisis where, everybody was big ballin', making all this money as real estate agents. The housing market was better than it had possibly ever been in the entire history of the United States, and there was worries that things were going to kind of cave down, peter off, so on and so forth. In fact, one of my best friend growing up, he was killing it. And then he was suddenly nearly six figures in debt because of the fact that that big living did not soldier through. And yeah, there was the whole housing market crash. And so there was a lot of different communities that have since rebounded here in Arizona and in various other parts of the country. But that is the backdrop for this, where essentially you've got Rosemary DeWitt. I had to double check on her name real quick on our screen here because of the fact that she's apparently done tons of things, including most recently a Black Mirror episode, and she's faced with a very lengthy IMDb. But for me, the person that I have to really get into is the fact that Danny McBride is he's our villain of sorts in this, but he's a sympathetic villain in the fact that whereas Rosemary DeWitt's character is a real estate agent who bought into this Arizona community that's outside of Phoenix, and she's living there, and there's a lot of unoccupied homes and so on and so forth, and so this is post-market crash. The person who has been hit exceedingly hard in the story is Danny McBride's character, and so this is excuse me, it's getting colder here in Arizona, which is not real cold in everybody's estimation, but Jonathan Watson is the director behind this, and this is his first time doing a full-on feature. He's done lots of AD work, both first unit and second unit, with, most notably, we're going to talk Danny McBride stuff, man. I mean, Vice Principals with Goggins, and then also Eastbound and Down. Both shows fantastic, and show that McBride has always kind of had, I guess Eastbound and Down is a little bit more on the silly side, whereas Vice Principals has more of that darkly dramatic undertone, which is what this really goes for. He's funny in this. He truly is, but you see just that tinge, that it's not a glimmer, it's like a shadow of sorts. And he's somebody that this is a movie that I would imagine was made on a microscopic budget. And you've got some big names in it, but they only have a couple scenes. So this is that indie thing where you have a big actor on set for one day. Happens all the time in the industry, because somebody who is killed at the beginning of the movie is a big name character, and then there's another character later on who is on for a day, another big name character. Yeah, so without spoiling deaths of big name characters, there's certain actors who, and they're not all killed on the set the same day or whatever. Oh man, I'm really shooting myself in the foot here because some people get shot in the face in this movie. But yeah, so McBride's character, he is kind of on the verge of losing his property, and he decides to go after one real estate agent at the brokerage where Rosemary's working. And then, it just kind of goes into, and you see all of this in the trailer. He takes her hostage. He ends up taking her daughter hostage as well. And everything plays out with, you've got Luke Wilson in this in a smaller role. He is the ex-husband. He's got the hotsy-totsy little girlfriend that presumably ruined the marriage with Rosemary DeWitt. So I must say, if we were going to do the usual horror show tropes of overall impressions, story, acting, music, so on and so forth, I thought it was okay. Yeah, I suffered from the third act, So the first two were really very bad things in a lot of ways, and I love Peter Berg's Very Bad Things. That movie is the shit. It's funny. It's gruesome. It's kind of messed up at times. I'm waving hi to Marsha. She just came from a win. But it had that darkly comedic vibe, and I love dark comedies with excessive violence and craziness that's not taken insanely seriously. And it worked for the first two-thirds of this movie, but the end just segues too much into horror tropes, and so for that reason, there's not really much else that I can divulge here. But yeah, you heard the story, obviously. Danny McBride decides to take some people captive after just he buys this property and he's put money into this property and he's losing value on it. So many people. It's really a heartbreaking backdrop because not just in Arizona, but countrywide, so many people lost money in this situation, and it's crazy. You also have Dee from Sunnydelphia. She's in this, so you really have a lot of big names. Like I said, you've got Seth Rogen, you've got Luke Wilson, you've got David Alan Grier, you've got I can't remember the name of the actress, and it's not pulled up on the IMDb, but she's Dee on Sunnydelphia, married in real life to Mac. Excuse me, Jimbus Crimbus. But yeah, there's not that much going on beyond that. The ex-husband, he still kind of has feelings for the kidnapped wife, and so he's going and trying to find her, and they set a really nice and humorous precedence of tone, especially between Rosemary DeWitt's character and Danny McBride. Like, their interaction and their vibe and their dynamic is funny in the fact that, she's the captive, but they're almost like bonding to some degree because they've both dealt with this whole housing market crash in different fashions, but they've still been negatively and adversely affected by it. So that's where, once they stop focusing on that aspect and it turns into your typical cat and mouse horror film of, I'm gonna chase these people, that's where this movie, and it's short, it's like 80 something minutes. So yeah, performances though, Danny McBride, he has just enough darkness, but just enough humor. He balances it very well. He's funny, but deranged in the same way, and so that works. Almost in some ways, the likability that he had in, I want to say, This Is the End? Or I don't know, the one that had Seth Rogen and all of those clowns and all of their friends, and, Franco was in it and all those idiots, but it was essentially, a bunch of homies, in Cali getting together and filming a movie, and, for micro budget, and then making a ton of money, and hey, let's invite, Hermione, and man, I am catching a little bit more than I anticipated, but beyond that, yeah, there's really not much else to mention. When you see the short little appearances of people, they're good enough when they're there, guys like Grier and, Wilson and Rogen, they're funny while they're there, but it's all small little bit roles. Like I said, micro budget, not filmed in Arizona. That just continued to bug me. Music, shots, from a visual standpoint, you get a little bit of gore and a little bit of killing. It eventually gets to that. The third act does turn into a full-on horror movie, essentially. That's the most I can divulge here without getting too much into it. Yeah, you hear a song called Arizona, which is a cover in there, so that's fun and that's cool. But as a whole, I'm very glad that I redboxed this, I spent $1 something, and I built up my points or whatever, and I'll be able to run something perhaps a little more worthwhile. But I personally love Danny McBride. I think the guy is just hellaciously funny. He has been accused of playing the same character countless times, but I like that character, so very much like Will Ferrell, very much like Jim Carrey in his early days. I have seen all three of those guys stretch their dramatic chops, so to speak, and I like Your Highness a lot. I own it. I love Foot Fist Way, which was essentially the precursor to Eastbound and Down, where he's playing the asshole, martial arts instructor and stuff. So I dig the Danny McBride schlock, and it does change enough in the back half where, yeah, it turns into a horror movie in the back half, and people are killed brutally, actually, and there's dogs licking up blood, and when the movie, it doesn't shy away from the gore when it does have it, but it is more so, once again, as I said, Very Bad Things, one of my favorite comedies of the late 90s, and at the end of the day, if it came down to it, I would say go watch Very Bad Things with Christian Slater and Daniel Stern and Jon Favreau, like the cast in that movie, damn. And here I am talking about another movie that's far superior than the one that we were here to review. So I will see that as the wrap-up point. I've been Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, doing a few separate things and commenting on pop culture. That is not of the scarific variety always, but more importantly, like, share, subscribe here on The Horror Show, and if you want to be a patron and jump to the tier where you can tell us what to review, you're like, dude, Arizona sucked. Why are you reviewing Arizona? Well, because it's the end of the year and we live in Arizona, damn it, and I watched it. So, content, baby, content. You want to program the content, you can sign up as a patron, and you can tell us what to do, as I always say. We like it when you tell us what to do. So, once again, I've been Fuego, y'all have been awesome, and until next time, peeps, remember, if you're in Arizona, stay scared.